It's that time again. Toxic Tuesday. We are the place that you absolutely want to be because just about everybody I know, and then some, has had at least one experience with a narcissist or somebody else that exhibits totally toxic behavior. So that is why we're here. And as we're waiting for folks to come in and join the chat, we've got some exciting stuff tonight. Well, we always do every week. We have our rotating guest host here. We've got Alicia, and I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. But today's episode, number 7, it's all about the Narcissist Playbook. Because they have a set of plays. It's almost like, hey, look at that. We've got one of our best supporters out there in the house. Hello, Sandy Wendy. Big wave.
Hi, Sandy.
Thanks for joining us here tonight. We've got a couple of other people trying to come in, so hopefully they'll be able to come in as I think. Oh, and you got a hello, Alicia from Sandy Wendy.
Nice to see you.
I believe we successfully integrated the Restream and YouTube scheduling. Thanks very much to the social media monitor guy, Carl. So huge thanks for that. And to Mary from Blessed to Crochet for introducing us to him. And so we can try to get this sorted out. So I think that's good. But back to this. So episode 7 tonight, it's the Narcissist Playbook. They have about 8 to 10 plays that they all use. And we're going to get into that. So first, introductions. People know me. I'm not a real doctor, nor do I play one on TV. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not an attorney, but I am a PhD scientist, and I deep dive and research things so that I get to understand them. And one of the things that I really like to focus on is peer support. How could we help each other and lean on each other? That's really why we're here. And yes, correct. And so, Sandy, we've got everything live streaming. It's on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn, it's here on YouTube, everywhere that you can stream content. We're there. We're really trying to multi-channel this. All right. So back to Alicia. I have known her for a very long time. She is a wonderful, wonderful, near and dear to my heart person. And what makes Alicia special, well, there's a whole bunch of things, but one of the things is that she is, oh, hello, Sandra Lee. She is a fine artist. And as a fine artist, she accepts commissions and contracts, and she does everything from painting intricate items, so to personalize your pocketbook or your jean jacket, to massive wall murals and all kinds of other things. And she's in the Phoenix area running just about starting that, her Hope for Hope art program, which includes some art therapy. So for those of you that are having some challenges, then come on over to art therapy. So with that, that is Alicia.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all here today.
Excellent. And so we're going to get in. We got like a few more people coming in here, doing a few little pings and say, okay. One of the things that I guess really struck me when I started thinking about the playbook and having conversations with Alicia here over the years, and we've had many, many jammy nights with hot cocoa and or other beverages, at least I have. And I've
had a couple. Laurelyn makes some good ones.
Yeah. Alicia doesn't generally imbibe, but I do. And so one of the things that we started to realize, and through our sharing our discussions on our dating history, was that they all have the same moves. And it really is a playbook. I don't think that narcissists officially go online and say, what are the 10 plays I need to do? But they all seem to do them. So we're going to cover that.
I agree with you. There seems to be something in common that I'm starting to see patterns with. And that's where we came up with that idea to talk about, do they actually have a playbook? Is it something innate in them? Or is it a learned, response to this behavior? Let's get into it. I need to know.
Exactly what we started. We put our little, our roster of past dates, that we could remember. Oh, hello, Stacey Ray. Very nice to see you here. This is fantastic. And Stacey is a well-known author, and we're very excited to talk to her in a couple of weeks here, actually 2 weeks from tonight. We're going to be talking about her book. And so we're going to put her on here at the end of the show, along with one other person who's going to be co-hosting, so we can get a chance to introduce them. All right. So back to the playbook. The first thing, it's that just super charm, right? They come across extremely strong. So actually, even before we roll that back, we look at our roster. I know you've got your list. Maybe you can share where you went through your check marks and I went through my check marks. What did you find?
I think everybody I've dated is a narcissist at this point. You know, I don't know if it's an epidemic going on, if people are just changing. Is it something they're born with? But thinking about this, going through that roster, I was going through different things. I'm like, you know what? I didn't even realize it at the time that was occurring to me. I didn't know that there was a definition for this thing. But yeah, I think I have like a record going on here with how many I've actually dated, because I am single. Hello, everybody. It's me, Alicia, single, and I dated narcissists. I think we need like a group to join. Maybe we can start that here where we can go and support each other, because they're out there, and especially if you're a sensitive soul, if you're an empathetic person, man, they come to you like moths to light. And
what is it about that? Because we're both empaths, where we like, feel the pain of everything in the universe. And is it that they have some kind of special radar where they can find the people that are empathic and they go, and they magnet to us?
I think it's possible. I don't know. I know that I always try to keep a very open mind with everybody. So I give a lot of chances. I'm very open to it. And I always used to think that my love could save them, even if they're not perfect. I'll love them until they are. I'll love them until they love me. And they really they like that. They like that kind of person, because they can take advantage of my love for them. I'm assuming that's what's been going on. But I have learned my boundaries, and I can thank this lady over here for teaching me that word. Boundaries are so important. And as I get older, I can see those patterns, and I could be like, wait a second, that was on that list of narcissists. I've been here before. I know that one. I'm not going to do it again. No.
Oh, no, right. And so like we were going through, and so we've got some additional guests here that I want to acknowledge in just a second, but we've got a comment from Sandy Wendy here. She is a narcissist magnet. I think we're part of this club. This is what we should start, the Narcissist Magnetic Club, because we're all like, and they come on and they stick on us. And so a couple of more folks here joined. So we've got Craig Leo Ra, who's going to be our guest next week as our guest co-host. And he is an energy healer. We're going to have some introductions here at the end. And today's inspiration was written on boundaries. Interessant, right? Because it is all about that. So back to our list. So we were looking through and going, and so everybody's narcissist. You've had a few psychopaths, a few sociopaths.
You know, I don't know. Are they a narcissist? Are they a sociopath? Is it a psychopath? I think I've had a blend of a couple of different personality traits that are coming through there. So maybe we can talk about the difference. Help me a little bit. Help some of them.
Well, that's just it, right? It's I don't know. And even when you think about it, okay, so if you're a psychologist, psychiatrist by trade, you really dig into these personality disorders and can instantly recognize the differences. For the rest of us, it's really the overall nuance, right? If somebody is just doing things that are causing societal harm and personal harm, and they get some perverse pleasure out of it, those are sociopathic tendencies. So yucky. But so let's talk about that super charm smother that happens as that first step.
So for me, I've experienced it on a couple of different levels. I've had people who have worked on me. Let's talk about one person. He's an ex, dated him for about 7 months, didn't want to date him, wasn't interested, but he just wooed me with flowers twice a week, the biggest bouquet of flowers you can imagine sent to work, and candies and chocolates and everything else, until I just broke down and I gave in, because I thought, okay, well, maybe he's a nice person. He's doing all these nice things for me. I wasn't feeling interested, but then I was like, well, you know what? Maybe he is a good guy. It was just like a little facade going on there just to kind of pull me in. And I was a challenge. I think they tend to like a little bit of a challenge, that they can break you and then they can take you. So,
Break it and take it. I don't think they wrote the playbook that way, but maybe we should update it one day.
Let's do that. But I've had a couple of different I would say beginnings that started with the charm, of course, because when we're out there and we're wanting to meet somebody, that charm is that initial, introduction. Why wouldn't I want somebody who's charming? It sounds nice. It sounds lovely. It's very attractive, but there's, is there something beyond that I'm not seeing?
And Stacey Ray here, who will be on next week. I believe I aired. Thank you for pointing that out, Craig. I got them backwards. June 18th, we'll have Stacey Ray, the author, on her new book about narcissism. And the following week, we'll have Craig Leo Ra, June 18th. And he will be talking about energy healing and bringing the male perspective to narcissism, because it's not only us gals that fall for Prince Harmings. There's a lot of really scary ladies and folks who don't identify with a particular gender who have narcissistic tendencies and behaviors. So it's not gender specific. So we'll get into some of that. But we've got a wonderful comment here from Stacy. It's about that charm. It's right. It's that idealization, that pedestal. It's like, oh, you're fabulous. Oh, bravo. Everything is bravo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's compelling.
It's... I was thinking about this and I thought, why am I attracted to them? Is it almost like an abusive pattern that I have fallen into? Because I do seem to fall for it. I am a highly intuitive person, but when it comes to my love life, I just, I want to share my heart so much, and I want it returned. And somehow I get the blinders on when they start to put that, that beautiful charm onto me. So I think it started a long time before them. Like, I actually realized I had a narcissistic parent. So it started early, and I tend to gravitate towards people who are narcissists because I learned that as a child. I had a very charming father. He was great. He was bigger than life. And you know what? I love that kind of personality in a man. So
they have this strength and they bring it. And we said some wonderful comments here. It is that push and pull, the narcissist versus the empath. And we want to have a shout out here. Hello, Jane or Janet. I'm sorry. No, can't type, can't see either, but there you go. Welcome. Janet G. Yes. Howdy. And that pull between the narcissist and the empath, because there's those magnetic forces where the empath is feeling the pain of everybody and just really wants to be supported and recognized and heard, and the narcissist who just wants to consume all of the power around and takes that ability and power of the narcissist and of the empath, pardon me, and mutes it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yes. I had a marriage of almost 20 years, as Laura Lynn knows. And again, trying to identify what exactly he was. There was narcissism there. There was definitely a lot more than that. But he fed off of my energy, off of my love. And he took a toll on me until finally I came back into myself and I realized, you matter too, Alicia. That was an epiphany of my life. It shouldn't have to be an epiphany that I matter. Mm-hmm. But when you're dealing with someone who makes you feel so much less because they're depleting you, you have to find that in yourself again and say, you know what? I don't deserve this. I don't have to be treated like this. I matter. Boundaries are going up. I'm going to protect myself, as I would tell a friend to. You got to treat yourself with the love that you would give to somebody else and stand up for yourself. They don't like that.
And that is one of the plays in the playbook, the feeling less than, but that comes a little later in the dating cycle. And just to keep things, because I tend to be, linear sometimes as well as random. The that second really modality that you see that play is that it escalates from creating all of that charm and, you know, almost like smarmy. There's so much of it and they're smothering you in it. They take it to the next level with love bombs. I know one of your boyfriends, Lisa, who you were referring to, he sent you the most exquisite flower displays I've ever seen. I thought he was a florist. They were fabulous.
They loved him there. They actually became friends with me at that florist because he bought so many arrangements from them. I mean, people would just be in awe of them at work. And it was wonderful. It was flattering, but in a little way, it felt so much. I was already getting suffocated by it.
Well, you talk about like, okay, so you have your like, all right, this is my story. He was so suffocating, giving me so many love bombs that people at work thought it was even crazy and creepy that he was a florist because it was so much. Well, I have a story too, because of course I do. One of my narcissistic, I guess, people that were extremely interested in me ultimately became a stalker. So he took it to a whole different level and stalked me for 9 years after he lost his job for stalking me. But what he did with his love bombs, you're an artist, so you would appreciate this and the work that goes into not only creating beautiful paintings, he was writing symphonies for me, like genius level, writing symphonies, composing these wonderful, wonderful pieces of music, and just trying to do everything he could, from Romeo and Juliet moments at my window and presenting them. And it was too much. And where I want to bring it back to the comments here in the audience, this is just it. They feed off that energy. At first, we're flattered and they like it because it energizes them and it encourages them to want to do more and do more and do more. It's not just, oh, here's 6 roses. Here's a dozen roses. Here's a floral bouquet that's been custom designed by a florist with artistic just greatness. Oh, that's not enough. Let me make a painting of you in a portrait. No, let me compose an 8-part symphony. You know, like, where does it stop? And we don't stop it. And that's what Stacey makes the point. If we nip that boundary earlier, we would detract from our appeal and might even be able to start to push them away.
Well, you know what? Being someone who is single and has gone through the process multiple times, as I've gotten older, again, I was able to learn to start to establish boundaries. Sometimes I digress because I am me and it's a learned response that I have to do. But I've noticed that in a relationship, when I think it's even going fantastic, when I actually start to initiate those boundaries and say, hey, you know what? You said something in a text and I want to talk about it a little bit. This is how I interpreted it. I did not attack the person. I tried to have a conversation. They took it as an attack because I was standing up for myself saying, this is not something I really like. And I would really prefer if maybe you didn't use that term. And man, my relationship ended very quickly when I did that. This was a recent one.
Instantly.
It instantly ended it. When I start to call somebody out, even if I do it in a soft manner, if it's a person who's a narcissist, they take immediate offense to it because you are seeing them and they know you're seeing them for who they are. And they need to go to the next person to work on it. Appears, at least from my experience in life, it's ended my relationships when I've set boundaries. So then I have to say, well, you know what? Was that relationship even worth it then? I felt heartbroken, but in retrospect, no, I don't want to be with someone who's not going to respect that about me, who's not going to be able to allow me to communicate how I'm feeling, because again, I'm going to go back to I matter too. So that is something that I've dealt with over and over and over again.
I know. And it's just, and if you look at where it leads to, and then you start having the conversations, they turn it back, right? That's play number 3, where they turn that conversation right back on about them. So
Mhm.
you're trying to say, I'm upset when you use this language or you do this thing. We start to try to flex that boundary when we start to get to that place where we go, something's not quite right. And it's not enough balance in our relationship. It's all about you, you, you. And then as soon as you raise it, they make it about me. And then one of the examples that you shared where you had just a horrific day at work, at home, in health, in everything recently. And you weren't even drama dumping. You weren't doing any of that. And he said, you need to understand what I'm going through. Right?
Yeah, so I promised myself I wouldn't do it anymore, but the last relationship I was in, he was having a tough time. I could recognize that. I am a strong individual, but I go through tough times too. But what I tend to do is I tend to allow them the spotlight with it. And it becomes about them, and I soothe them and I comfort them and I allow them to have the platform to speak about it. And this particular day, it was like, you know what? I kind of need to do it for me today. I need you to hear me today. I need to say, I had a rough day at work. It didn't go well, and it really upset me. And as soon as I started to do that, this person was pulling back because it wasn't only about them anymore. And I was shocked. I was blindsided by it because again, this person was so charming. I didn't imagine that they weren't a good person. I thought he was a great guy. And he really wasn't as great as I thought because he left me during a rough period in my life. It
Yeah.
wasn't about him. So,
No, and that day I know, like knowing you was one of the worst days you've had in recent memory. And he just made it all about him. You don't know what I'm going through. You need to support. Like, oh my God. And then meanwhile, he was thinking, oh, I want to be out from the relationship and that anyway, for whatever reasons. And soon as you started challenging him, it
he
kind of
jumped
cinched the
ship.
deal.
Soon as I challenged him, he jumped ship. And it was amazing to me because, like, finding the right words in the right moment has never been my forte. I'm the one who realizes things later on what I should have said, but I was saying it then. And he did not like it. It was almost like I disarmed him because came to my house. He sat there and he's telling me all of this stuff about himself and how he needs, it's not you, it's me. I need to work on me. And I'm like, oh my God, are you going to be it's not you and me guy, it's me guy? Because everybody's got a title. I got to title everybody. Um, and I called him out and I said, well, you know what? Are you staying or are you leaving? Because, like, I know myself and I have to give myself more respect than to allow you to be here any longer than necessary if this is what's happening. I never do that. It was an amazing moment. As sad as I was, something was coming to an end, finding power within myself
Yeah.
to to protect myself, to defend myself, as I would a little girl. Little Alicia was sitting there, and I'm like, "You better defend her. She needs your help today. You can do this. You've been building up that, that armor now. It's time to put up your dukes and throw the punch there." Not that I was being mean. I wasn't. I was just standing up for myself. So,
And that's just it. And there was a comment in the chat that it does turn to gaslighting. So when you start to flex your muscles and start to set a boundary, they push back and they make it about themselves. Then they take things to the next level. That next play is the gaslighting. I with my ex-husband, I was convinced that something was wrong with me. Maybe he's right. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that, because making you feel less than is the next thing that they do to start to make you feel dependent on them.
it's their manipulation to gain control over you. I dealt with that in my marriage all the time. I didn't know. And sometimes it creeps back in because he used to say to me, oh, they'll love if you go out there and you date somebody else, they may like the way you look, or they may want to, get you into bed, but they're not going to love you for a long time because you're not lovable. You're cold. You're like, he used to say, you're like your mom. She's cold. And that would, like, just stab me in the heart because I had some relationship issues with my mother about that. So here I was being put down and compared to her. But whatever he could do to take away my self-confidence did it It was that control that he would get me
Right.
back in for 20 years.
Yep. And they take you away from your family and friends and all of that. So they're cutting you down, making you feel less than. And Stacy points out here, and I'm anxious to talk to her next week. She'll be on the show talking about her book. She's done a lot of research here on narcissism, and it is about that realization. And that's where the friction starts, because you, the person, the empath usually, but the person who's being impacted negatively by the narcissist, start to realize, like, wait a minute, I'm not doing any of the things I want to do. I don't feel happy. I'm losing confidence. I'm like losing things.
I'm
And right. And you start to realize, but you start to realize, wow, that's exactly what the other person's been doing. And so when we start to reconnect with ourselves again and who we want to be, that's when we start to feel more powerful and we push back harder. And then the narcissists push back even harder, making you feel that much more, or that much less, really.
They will go full throttle as far as you will allow them to go with that behavior. You do has I see some people are saying you have to say no with authority. I remember a moment in my marriage when my husband's yelling, "I love you," and I stop for a second. I'm like, this is not love. This is not. For the first time, he was emotional, and I was calmer, and he got more emotional. There was some kind of a weird switch that had happened between the two of us, because I felt like I was, even though I was in a situation that was bad, I was more in control than he was.
Right. Because when you flip the switch, they lose their minds. They can't take it. What do you mean you're pushing back? What do you mean you're accusing me of being less than? No, you're the less than in this relationship. You're the problem. And you've believed it for so long. And you talk about when that, like I said, that switch flips and their eyes go, dead eyes, fish eyes. We talked about it. My ex had his knee on my throat with a gun. Okay. Hey, you love me.
Yeah, sure. I love you. Right now, I love you so much.
This is not love. No. Restraining orders, blah, blah, blah. All the sorts of good stuff that came later from that. But that's the thing. We don't realize how much of ourselves has been erased by the other person. It takes a long, long time. It takes years. It's hard.
I agree with you on that. It's interesting having, so many different friends and hearing their different stories. And that's where we came up with the idea. Do they have a playbook or something? Because I met somebody really lovely where I live now, and she's currently getting divorced, and she keeps teetering back and forth because sometimes he's charming and sometimes he's, the villain, Prince Charming versus the villain within the same person. And he keeps using very sensitive subjects to tear her confidence down. And it's interesting because the women I know, and people always say this, why don't you leave? You don't have to take that. You don't realize it when you're in the middle of that storm that it's occurring, but you are still strong. And they're some of the strongest women that I know, and men. I've talked to men who've been through situations like this too, that have been able to come out of this and keep growing and get stronger and look back. But the biggest strength I think that we all have is that we still keep hope and love in our hearts. They didn't take that away from us. Don't ever let them take that away from you. That's part of my art. It is one of my biggest themes in life. I always keep hoping. I am a hopeful romantic. So I don't care how many of them are out there. I'm going to keep trying. And now I'm armed more to recognize them. And I'm not going to take their SHI hashtag.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. YouTube rules. Can't use those words, but that's just it. That's part of the reason why they're attracted to strong people in the first place. They want to leverage your strength to raise them up. But heaven forbid if you ever throw it back on them and tell them they're wrong, or they're this, or they're that, or they're not this.
You and I both know what happens.
That's right.
They explode. They can't handle it. I realized at the end of my marriage, the spouse that was trying to rescue me and take care of me and save me, he was not as strong as I was.
No,
And
they're not.
and I didn't know that. I thought he was so tough and so strong. He was so manipulative. He was wonderful and handsome and charming. And then he was completely psychotic and selfish and very manipulative. I was never physically abused, but the emotional, mental abuse that came along with being with someone with a narcissistic tendency, a narcissistic personality, sometimes it feels so much worse because it just gets into your psyche. It attacks your central nervous system. It just beats you down. And like I'm a big fan of the underdog. I've always favored those type of movies. So I get that theme in my head and I'm the eye of the tiger. I'm not letting them take me down. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep fighting for what I believe in. And I realized my strength, you know, it gets easier as you learn this about yourself.
Right. And as you get older, you gain some more maturity and
Yeah.
contextual references so that you're better at identifying what those signs are and what the things are. And we've got a comment here from Janet that resonated with me, that her brother's a narcissist. It's all about him. He even forgot that their sister had cancer. And where that, like I said, struck a chord with me. I'm a cancer survivor, almost 20 years. So touch wood somewhere, anywhere. And yeah. And my ex, as I was going through cancer, kept saying, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so weak? Get it together. You need to go back to work," because he didn't work. And I funded everything. I was like, I need some time. Cancer's tough to recover from.
No subject is off limits with someone who is like that. As you know, my late husband lied about having cancer to try and pull me
Yes.
back in. I didn't know whether to be more upset by the fact that I didn't know if he was telling the truth about having cancer or if he actually was sick from cancer. He knew that was a very beyond sensitive subject to me because my father died from pancreatic cancer. My mother got pancreatic cancer. She survived it by the grace of the universe, of God, whatever you believe in. And I also had a scare. So all at the same time, they will use whatever sensitive soft spot you have and they'll play on it. There is nothing off limits to someone like that. And that's terrible. It's
No,
unbelievable.
because they have to be adored and heralded and exalted. And as soon as you go against them, that's just it. And most of us, not all of us, but most of us that are strong, we don't subscribe to that victim mentality. We've got a comment here from Craig, the energy healer, that because we don't play that role of victim, we don't see ourselves that way. We look and our hearts are so big and our strength is so great that we look at the narcissist that's destroying us and think they need our help. We can raise them up. We recognize the need. They're not in control. We can do something about that and share more of our strength to help them. And it's it's a mind frig. Like, that's for sure. It just, oh,
Mhm. You know what? Over 10 years later, I'm still getting rid of the debris from that relationship that it's left inside me. And just to make a little comment, I know Craig is watching and you're going to be speaking with him on another episode, but he's been helping me through all that. He is helping me with these blockages, my energy, and it's made such an amazing difference. I've gotten so much more in touch with myself, the burdens of what other people have left me with, the cords that are still there that he's trying to help me sever. Because I always say once I love someone, where my love doesn't go away. It was genuine, but with other people, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist, and if they love bomb you and they come on so strong and you feel like, oh my God, this is what I've always wanted, somebody who loves me. But it doesn't go away for me. So he's been helping me kind of detox from all of that, and it's been an amazing experience. So I can't wait for you guys to all get to meet him too. But you know, it's helped me with this particular subject that I've been dealing with patterns in my life over and over again with this type of behavior.
Oh yeah, and again, you don't recognize. And this comment is also like, whew, that was just it. And people said, oh, empaths and this and that and strong people, we have God complex. We're no different than the narcissists. We think we are above them and above other people, and we can leverage our superhero powers and our superhuman strengths to help others rise up when they're struggling and mired in narcissism or whatever, lack of self-esteem, lack of childhood love, whatever it is that they suffered from that helped render them as they are today. But it's not true. We just, as empaths, you just want to give and give and give, and you don't realize how depleted you are until you're empty.
That's, but I have to say, as an empath, even at the moments where I felt like I was empty, it doesn't go away. They can't take that from you. You can always regenerate that. You can't allow them to do that. You can't let them win. I'm looking at some of these comments too. They're amazing.
But that's just it. You can see from the comments that everyone here has had a journey with narcissism.
Yes.
And that's the whole reason, I think, underscoring the concept of the playbook. They've got the 10 standard plays. This is what you do.
Some of them are a little more creative with that. I went out with one person. Oh my gosh, he was so handsome and he was muscular. And I was like, this is amazing. And he love bombed me. This was the first time I ever heard the word, but he taught me what that word was, because he said he was love bombed. He says, I didn't know this, but my ex-wife, who wasn't an ex-wife, he lied to me, was a narcissist, and he played the victim to me to win me over. And he did this to multiple women after me, because they came to me and they spoke with me about it. There is a whole slew of people that he's left in his path, but he plays the empath being abused by the narcissist to gain that trust from someone like me, from another relationship. And he did the whole love bombing thing, but he told me, my ex love bombed me, and this is what it is. And why would I suspect him if he was treated that way? Does that make sense? Like, he was playing the victim there.
But that's the thing, twisting it around. I think, I don't know, I'm not the professional in this, but I think that falls under the umbrella of gaslighting, where they twist everything around so much that you lose track of which way is up, which way is right, who's who in this relationship, and you question yourself.
Yeah, you know what, my friend who is going through the divorce right now, one day she's up, the next day she's down. She says, he's making me feel like I'm crazy. And I don't think I'm crazy. I said, I understand. I've been there, where my spouse used to do that to me. And I used to say, I feel like I know this is not true. And I'm looking around for the answers here. I know I'm not crazy. I don't know where you're getting these ideas from. But if you spend enough time with someone like that, they can really do a whole mind, thing on you there.
Oh yeah, I was completely twisted, and I love this concept. I haven't heard this here, that Craig's introduced us to the difference between being a baker and an eater. Bakers, like ourselves, we can create and generate energy and fuel to sustain us, but eaters can't. And eaters, of course, rely on bakers. We're the food, we're the fuel. That's a really cool concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that. I think I've heard him also say the creators too. So they can't create, but we can. Again, it's all about the energy. They're tuning into the energy, and they're trying to fill their car up with our energy, and they leave us empty. And when they realize, I think, that time is up and there's nothing left, they move on to the next one.
Oh
and
yeah,
doing this like vampires.
Targets. Come on up. And when you need puppy therapy, right? There's my baby. Their little baby. Oh, we go.
Yeah, who needs them anymore? Just got a dog.
Oh, I know, right? They love. Although we were saying, for the dog lovers out there, dogs do tend to be sort of narcissistic in that too. And we're going to have, because it's all about them and we've got to devote ourselves to them, but it's totally worthwhile. And we're going to bring up our upcoming co-host into the studio in just a second, but I want to recap for those folks that are listening and talk about what are some of those key plays that narcissists pretty much universally do. It is the narcissist playbook, official or unofficial, doesn't matter. What do? At the start of the relationship, they come on strong, where they're just doing anything and everything for you to get your attention, put you on that pedestal. They love bomb you. Here's this, here's flowers, here's texts, here's prose, here's a symphony, here's a painting I did, here's a mural, here's a whatever it is that they do. And then when you start to flex a little bit and try to get things going and turn things back to them, and about you, I should say, they turn it back to them. You start saying, well, I've had a bad day. I want to share, because you're in that initial honeymoon phase of the relationship and you don't say anything. You try to be super positive, right? Then they start to turn it back to make it about them. Then you start to find out, as they're sharing a little bit, that they've had difficult relationships. Of course, they're never to blame for those. They blame the other person. The other person did this, did that. We know they don't have empathy, right? That's where we're magnets for people that are or have high levels of empathy. And then they gaslight you. They get you so twisted and confused that you start to doubt things that you knew to be true. Of course, they're always right. Don't ever, ever challenge them, and never, ever tell somebody they are a narcissist, right? The implosion happens because they want admiration. Being a narcissist is a bad thing. They want people to lick their heels and just exalt them.
And they're everywhere. They're at work. We're talking about relationships, but you can grow up in a home with a narcissistic family member. You can deal with it at work, as you know, a coworker or a boss, a supervisor. Relationships, obviously, it's all over the place. So how do we protect ourselves? Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
One thing that I do now when I start to get to know a new person, and again, I'm referring to a romantic relationship, I'll ask them, if I spoke to your ex, what would they say went wrong with the relationship? Not what you say, because you're going to hear what they think. And if they blame the ex still at that point, you got to question it, because if someone can't take any bit of accountability and think they're always perfect, that's a red flag going off there. So that's one little thing I can suggest.
No, exactly. And then just wrapping up the last couple of plays they do in the top 10 plays, when you start to flex those boundaries, again, this is toward the end of the relationship, where you're starting to get strong enough now where you see that you need to exit, that they completely disregard the boundaries that you set. And they just work so hard to belittle you and make you feel less than, that it buys more time in the relationship. You think, well, maybe right. Maybe they're right. Oh, yes.
My friend Nikki just joined us, or she's been with us, but yes, she's familiar with all of this too. We need to talk to her as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there we are with the top 10 plays that narcissists follow. And while we've got folks here, we've got to feed the beast, the algorithm that is YouTube. Folks, if you could please, on the YouTube page on our show, hit the like button on our YouTube Steerus page. That really helps us. And we appreciate all of the comments, and that feeds the beast to the algorithm too. So let's pause here for a moment. We're going to introduce our co-host that's going to be coming on next week. And Alicia made this introduction, well, a couple of introductions coming up. And so I'm really grateful for that. We're going to bring on Stacy here first. And another fellow Canuck. Yay, the land of poutine and maple syrup.
Right. Also cold snow. Yeah, lots of snow.
There's that. So Stacy, why don't you take a few moments? She's going to be our guest co-host next week, and tell us a little bit about your book and what folks can expect to hear from next week.
Well, I don't know what they're going to expect to hear, because from the sounds of this, you guys love to do this organic thing that just grows and mushrooms out. So I don't know exactly what we're going to talk about, but I can say that one of the focuses that I have in my book, which is right here, The Last Letter, Surviving a Narcissistic Relationship. In my book, the focus is less on the narcissist and more on us the victims of narcissism and transitioning us to become survivors. Because I think too many times we end up with such a focus on what they're doing to us and how they're impacting us. And we forget to say, hang on a sec, we have the power here. We have the ability to remove ourselves from this. But I don't think there's a lot of education in that, or perhaps not enough in the world. So I got to this point within myself where I said the exact same thing you did, Alicia, where you're like, I got to figure out, like, why do I keep picking the same people? And I just said, as I was trying to research, there isn't enough information. I didn't know how to find that. And that told me as an educator that I have to create that. And so what I hope that we can do with all of your listeners and followers is give them some simple tools. And that's what my book is all about, is a step-by-step process using these key components of our emotions, our logical mind, and our heart, our intuition. And so I've broken this book up into 3 sections where you have the letter to the narcissist. And that's the emotional component where you get to pour out and read what somebody else has expressed and go, that's my letter too. Like, I've written that same letter. But then we move into the narc notes. That's the educational piece. That's the function of the mind, so that the mind can start to understand what has happened. And that's where we see the concepts of like gaslighting. That's one of the things that in the narc notes, we would have that moment and go, oh my God, that's exactly what happened. But we can't stop there, because I think sometimes that's what happens as we end up right there at the mind. We forget we have to go to the heart. And that's where in my book, we cover in every chapter a healing epilogue. And this is where we have the tools to get yourself out of the loop. Exactly what you said, Alicia. Outside of that cycle.
Giving it away for Christmas. Everyone's getting your book.
Yes.
Because you are also not wrong when you said this is not just romantic relationships. This is in the workplace, in our family members. This is in our friends circles. And so if you understand the tools beyond the mind and you get to the point of yourself and you say, why am I allowing this behavior? And that comes by going backwards to the origin point. Just like you guys talked about, this is from childhood. It's like 98% of the time it comes from the childhood wounds. And if we can take people back there, which is what I believe I've done, and I've done it in a way that I'm not going to push you too far, just far enough for you to be able to then exercise all the tools and dig deeper, because I'm not a psychologist. I'm a counselor, right? That's a limited perspective. And I wanted to say I could bring people to that ground level and then they can go deeper and deeper as they need to. And that's what I hope we can accomplish next week when I'm on the show with you.
Absolutely. I can't wait. So we're going to have next week, a week from today, Stacey Ray and her book, The Last Letter. We're going to feature her. And Stacey, we'll look forward to being in touch with you next week. Now I'm going to bring up our guest who's coming on June 25th. And I think I finally got the dates right, Craig? Thank you, Stacey. Let me bring up Craig. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Hello.
Right. Oh, look at that. You've got that, nice gas mask right in the middle of your forehead. That just worked out perfectly. Yes, there you go.
Hi, how's it going?
It's
Hey.
cool. We're excited to get another wonderful introduction here from Alicia to Craig Leora, an energy healer, and he's going to be our guest co-host on June 25th. Craig, maybe tell folks a little bit about you so that we can get people primed for what's coming 2 weeks from now.
Sure. I think one of the biggest things is you have two of the best people in my life that you just showed up in a second ago. So Alicia and Stacey are very dear to me. But what I think also is the male perspective might also be needed. Also, I can provide that also reflection that earlier. We always talk about how, women get love bombed and so forth. There is actually a female narcissist that does very similar things, but the male role in that gets manipulated a lot too. And so knowing that men also suffer from a narcissistic relationships, I've had many relationships. I've grew up and I had lots of different experiences, and I'm sad to say that I'm divorced twice. because of it. And I know what happened, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I broke out in more emotional experience, and rather than understanding that it was a boundary experience. And I think I could talk about that. And then also with energy, we're not just physical beings, we are actually energy beings. So we have many bodies. And so one of the things that I do, and I've learned to help others and myself, I do this on a regular basis for myself as well, is to clear those energy centers and clear those flows so that we are no longer blocked up emotionally, and we're able to express our emotions in a proper flow, which helps our mind release that cortisol, release all that, all those negative defensive mechanisms, that we don't realize that we are not alone. We are actually in a group of people that actually suffer from this, and that we're able to see and point out that you're right. You have the right to your boundaries. You have a right to be feeling the way you are. But we've been trained by narcissists for so long to not stand up for ourselves, that when we stand up for our own boundaries, we actually find out that we are trying to treat them the way that we want to be treated. But the one thing we got to understand is that narcissists don't want to communicate. They're not wanting to listen. And so having that conversation, I think, in 2 weeks is going to be fun.
Oh, and we've got, I think it's going to be a great show. And we just, hello, Zara. Nice to have you here on the show and see you chatting. In 2 weeks from today, we'll have Craig sharing his insights, and he's an energy healer. And then once we have each of the hosts set up, we'll put contact information so that if people want to work with energy healers or authors, counselors, artists, whatever it is, and whichever talent and wonderful human being we bring on as the co-host, you'll have an opportunity to figure out how to connect with them. So, Craig, we're going to see you in 2 weeks, and we're very much excited to have the opportunity. And thank you for being a part of our show today. And with Stacy, we're really grateful for that. I think it made it a very rich show and bringing in these different perspectives and helping everybody. So I'm going to kick you out of the studio until 2 weeks from now.
All right.
Thank you, Craig. And as we wrap up here, of course, we want to thank Alicia. And Alicia, she has Hope for Hope Art. She is a contract and commission artist. She is offering art therapy right now, local to the Phoenix, Arizona area. But this is something that you may want to consider to heal. So I just wanted to say, Alicia, thank you so much. You've been a wonderful influence in my life, and it always breaks my heart every time I see one of these narcissistic intimate partners just cutting you down.
Oh my God, I just want love from a nice person.
And you're a hopeless romantic. That's the funny thing. You're like, oh, well, there's another one, but maybe this one will be lovely, right?
Yeah,
so it's great.
I give them all the benefit of the doubt, but I'm getting better. I really am. Craig's helping me, so guys, listen to him. He's definitely getting to the root of what's been going on with me. Thanks, Dad.
That's right. So with that, we're going to wrap up the show. And again, just huge thank you to everybody that's been participating in the chat, all of the folks there, Sandy, Wendy, Stacy, Craig, Janet, Zara, and the other folks that are there. We couldn't do this show without your participation and comments. So big hearts. And yes, as Stacy said, great job, Alicia. And we will be able to set you up, Zara in the UK. Stay tuned in 2 weeks. We'll have all the contact information on how you can reach Craig after he does his show with us. So might have to wait a couple of weeks, but otherwise we'll figure out. You can always contact us through Steeris at YouTube, and I can ask for Craig's permission to be put into contact. So there's ways, right? There's technology around this. We can get connected. All right. Oh, and so with that, I think we are out of time. And so just want to say again, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you being here, and look for those plays, right? All the narcissists use them.
Who knew talking about narcissism could be so much fun?
Do you feel like, oh, it's like, I was going to say it's almost better than a glass of champagne or bubbly, but yeah, it's like I miss our jammy days and our, discussions about this one, that one,
We'll have a pajama party. We'll talk about something else.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.